City.
Well, good evening, everybody. We'll start the agenda of the Protection and Policy Committee for Monday, January 23rd, 6 p.m. Roll call. Alder Grant.
Present.
Alder Morgan.
Present.
Alder Scannell.
Here.
Alder Stevens. Here. We're all here. I'll take a motion to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alder Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Item number, approval of the minutes for January 9th, 2023. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
By Alder Grant. All in favor?
Aye.
On to regular business. Okay, before we start this, just a little housekeeping. What we discussed tonight and approval or disapproval will go to Common Council for final approval on February 7th at 6 p.m. So regular business, number one, consideration with possible action on a change of agent for MJ Hospitality Drink at 708 Bodart Street to Joanne Albertese. Attorney,
No objection.
please.
Please concur.
Right. Make a motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alder Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. Number two, consideration with possible action on a request by Catering with Taste Inc. at 618 Gray Street to extend the insurance of their licensed premise to April 11th, 2023.
No objection.
Please?
Please concur.
Motion to approve.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
By Alder Grant, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. Number three, consideration with possible action on a request by Confetti's Inc. at 217 East Walnut Street to extend the assurance of their licensed premise to mid-May. Attorney,
No objection.
please.
The police knows there's a lot of extensive work that needs to be done since Mr. Schneider bought it, so we have no issue. We concur.
Perfect. Take
Thank
a
you,
mo-
and motion to approve.
All right, have a second?
Second.
By Alder Grant, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. Number four, consideration with possible action on a request by 1001 Club LLC at 1001 Main Street to extend the assurance of their license to mid-February.
No objection.
Please.
Please concur.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alder Grant, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? All right, the ayes have it. Number five, consideration possible action on request by Harp & Eagle LTD St. Brennan's Inn at 234 South Washington Street to temporarily extend their licensed premise to the parking lot on March 12th, St. Aldrich's fundraiser, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, and March 18th, DTGB Street, Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick's Day Parade, thank you. Attorney?
Defer to police.
All right, please.
We have worked with St. Brendan's numerous times in the past on this, as well as the St. Baldrick's event, and also for St. Patty's Day and the parade that they have. Their security is always very adequate. We have no issues, so we would recommend that. We have no problems with it.
Perfect, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second. By Alder Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay? All right, ayes have it. Number six, consideration with possible action on request by the Sardine Can Inc. at 128 South Broadway to temporarily expand their licensed premise to the back park lot until December 31st, 2023. Attorney,
Defer to police department.
please.
We have no objection. My question is, the very next agenda item has very specific dates. I believe in the past with COVID, the council would allow people to extend their license, but I believe that has since sunsetted away where we're not doing that. I do know Mr. Bunkelman's on Zoom right now, so I guess my question is, why is he asking for that and number 7 if it's mainly just for number 7? Number 6 might be able to go away, but that'd be our only question.
I'll take a motion to open the floor.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Hello,
Aye.
thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so
Brian,
the health ordinance that was out there in 2020, 2021, and 2022, we were able to take full activity of our parking lot, specifically on Wednesdays, certain nights before Packer games, etc. And I believe there's been some consideration that that will be extended this year. So between our two items where We would obviously love to have some block parties, which I believe is the next item. We still would like to have specifically for probably about 20-ish dates throughout the year to utilize our back parking lot. And as Lieutenant Mahoney said, we obviously barricade that off. We have security. We haven't had any issues the past number of years. So just like to see if we can continue to do what we've done.
We don't have, I do know in the past years when they do have events, yes, it's barricaded off, they hire more than adequate security. We don't have an issue with it per se. I just didn't know if Mr. Bunkelman was still trying to do, like I said, how in the past, I believe every place that held a liquor license could extend it to their parking lot or even on city property with approval. So we don't have an issue with it. I guess I was just questioning, because if you do that, then to me, number 7's kind of a moot point, because you already extended it out to include your whole
No.
park.
Number 7 is more for the street from that perspective, since we've also put in our special events request through, I think, Melissa Erdman in the mayor's office. We know we have to do a permit, I believe, for both.
Okay, I was just confused because number 7 just said parking lot. I do know they always have their bands on the street at certain times
Yep.
in the year, which we don't object to either, because they always get the proper permitting and security. I was just kind of confused because they both just talk about the parking lot.
My apologies for the way it was worded.
Mr. Bunkelman, could you state your address for the record, please?
My home address is 3699 Bureau Lane, in De Pere.
All right, thank you. Any questions? If not,
Do we,
motion to close the floor.
before we do that,
I believe what they have in the past, like, they'll have events to extend to their parking lot, but I believe the items, not to jump to the next agenda item, certain times they block off the street right next to, between their bar and the school board building, or the school building right there. They block off the street, so I believe that's what item 7 might cover more. But once
Yes,
again,
absolutely.
he's asking for the streets, which I believe is not even here or in front of us, since it's a parking lot.
is that legal? Does that matter? Can we, if we end up approving, well, maybe we need to discuss it at 7 when we get there.
Yeah, so I'm reading the letter. The second, item number 7 is related to special events, which obviously is a separate permitting process for those specific dates. I think it's still appropriate to approve the expansion of the premise, because the temporary expansion no longer exists. It expired in December. So we need to, if you so choose to do so, approve the temporary expansion, which it's not the temporary expansion that expired. It has to be granted by council, so that's the reason for coming through PNP, I believe. Is that right, Jamie? Right. So it has to be, because that expired 12/31 of '22, council now has to approve expansion of premise.
In the past, I think we always had specific dates attached to it, but then with the pandemic, we kind of
Yes.
opened it up. Are we going to be getting back to specific dates, or are we not? Is it a concern, or?
It's not limited to specific dates. This is a consideration in the update of Chapter 4, which we have not done yet, so there's not a limitation for specific dates or months. I would note, though, that the licensing year ends and subject to renewal for the next licensing year, because he's asking for all year, which extends into the next licensing year. I mean, assuming they would be renewed, but those dates extend into the next licensing year.
And I can tell you, Mr. Bunkelman's been very good at notifying the police department when they're having these events, so it's not like it just pops up where we have no idea that's going on. Once in the next month or two, it's almost every other week, he's shooting us emails, communicating with the PD, the events that they have going. So we do appreciate that, so we know it's all of a sudden not a surprise when there might be more people at his establishment.
I have no questions for Mr. Buckland. Do you have anything to add, or?
Do you have anything else to add, Mr. Bunkman?
No, thank you for letting me speak. Again, if there's any questions on it, I apologize if I misworded either this or the next line item, as we're just trying to, I guess, being very similar to the last 3 years, utilize our parking lots on most Wednesdays, a handful of Packers Saturday nights, those sort of things.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to close the floor?
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay? All right.
Motion to approve item 6?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, it's been approved. Number 7, consideration with possible action on a request by Sardine Can Inc. at 128 South Broadway to temporarily expand their licensed premise to the parking lot on June 14th, June 28th, July 12th, July 19th, July 26th, August 9th, and August 23rd. Please.
Please have no issue with that whatsoever. As we discussed, they always have good security, and Mr. Bunkelman keeps us up to date on anything that's going on or if there are changes.
Perfect, thank you.
Question for legal? Should-
I would concur.
So, but
She's
since
said
he-
that before.
Right, but since he wants to, with this item, he does want to extend into the street, should we amend this item to reflect that?
And could I just clarify one thing? So in the past, if I'm not mistaken, allowing it on the parking lot, since there was a adjacent special event that allowed the liquor license holder to take beer and fermented malt beverages out to the streets. Am I correct with that? And was that the intentions this time?
I believe so on these special dates when they have an event out in the street, I believe. That's what they've done in the past. Like you said, the beer and fermented malt beverages, I don't believe the spirits were allowed out there. I could be wrong.
That's right.
Jeffrey.
She concurred.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, I concur.
Okay.
The map, I don't think the map reflects that. It's the same map that was attached for the previous item, but they're asking that these be special events. So different process than the previous approval, that these are special events. Potentially they're getting an approval from DPW as well. So a different process, but they still need an approval to expand their premise for their liquor license.
Okay.
Which is all we're doing here, not necessarily approving the use of the street, if that was the clarification.
Well, that was a clarification, yeah, but use of the street for their liquor license.
Well, you still have to expand the premise, but I don't think, the street isn't included in the map, nor is it described here.
I thought in the past when they applied to get the special event permit for the street, to use the street, that's when they had been asking to extend it out into the street once, but I believe this isn't the venue to get that special event permit request. 'Cause
Covers all that?
It has to go through DPW and all that, but I believe once they get that, then we could extend it out into the street.
Okay. So I just want to make sure legally,
Yep.
You don't have to-
I concur with what Lieutenant Mahoney said.
okay. Well, for squared away legally, I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morgan, Alderman Green, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it. Number 8, consideration of possible action on appeal by John Rome, 1315 South Oakland Avenue regarding reinspection fees filed with the law department on 1/11/2023.
Sure, I'll just start and then turn it over to the appellant. Just want to mention, all of the invoices from inspections are in your packet. There are also parking violations, but just a note on those, parking violations, an appeal of those can't be processed by this committee. Municipal court handles those. In terms of the 30-day time frame, the invoices from as recent as January 9th through 12/14 are timely. You're obviously permitted to consider all of them, but from December 9th and older, those are not timely, meaning within the 30 days. And there's a total, if you look on the most recent invoice, the total is $650.
And that's what we're dealing with today?
Yes. But all the documents that are received from Mr. Romer should be in your packet.
Inspections is here too. Who would like to speak?
I would defer to Mr. Rome, and then if you need me to do a case overview, I'd be more than happy to do that with the
Okay. Motion open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Second. Alderman Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Any? All right, floor is now open. You can come on up if you'd like, or sit there.
Good evening, Board.
And I will need your name and address for the record as well.
Yes, John Rome, 1315 South Oakland Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54304.
All right, thank you.
I actually was almost miscommunication from the beginning. This all occurred, I actually got the actual violation on Labor Day. I returned back to Green Bay and it had been issued, and the first citation, I think, was I received it on Labor Day, the very first citation, and it was issued, and it was to be corrected by the 6th, which Labor Day fell on the 5th, and then the following day, the 6th. So then, with communications, I was under the impression that this was resolved, that I would be given the necessary times. The things that exist have existed since 2001. So it's been in existence for that long, and it was approaching a time when I was going to install the driveway, correct the shed. The shed was given to me by Neighborhood Housing. It's a shiplap shed with true 2x4s and 2x6s, and so I deemed it worthy of saving and just reciting and so forth. So as the citations went on, they're in excess of $700 now, and I would like to use these monies for beautification, to put in the driveway, and if need be, given a written statement. I've spoken with the engineers upstairs. We're in agreement that these things can be did. The shed can be moved, and the installation of additional 2-car garage, along with widening my driveway. My driveway goes from 19 feet to 12 feet, 11 feet 9 inches, so it's outdated. It's from the 40s and so forth, which makes it complicated. And this is a unique piece of property. This is the last house standing when they widened Broadway. So it's on a pie-shaped angle, which would have to be modified as well. And so I spoke with the engineer, and these things can all be done. And I was under the impression, after speaking with him, and he had given me the note that I'd be given the necessary time to correct these things. The things we could do as far as September, October, we do. And then the following spring, we put in a new driveway, moved the shed 24 feet, and installed an additional 2-car garage, making it a 4-car garage.
One question for clarification. This is on East Green Bay, correct?
West.
West, okay,
Broadway, Oakland.
okay. I thought the zip code all along was east. It's ours.
So the work, do you have a time frame for when the work would be finished?
Yes. As recently as last week, Tim had given me the 16th on the siding, which has been corrected. The front porch is being worked on as we speak with the railings and so forth. That should be completed tonight, if not first thing in the morning. And then that would leave the modification of the driveway and the movement of the shed. And these things could be accomplished. Tim had given me I gave Tim a timeline of, I think, late April, early May.
That'll be all we done? Okay, and when did you do that? When did you come to an agreement with him?
I can give you an exact time. The phone is still starting.
Okay. Well, even roughly,
Um, So on the 13th, we spoke with the dates. John, per your timeline, front handrail, guardrails, I'll re-inspect on January 24th. Vinyl siding, I'll re-inspect on January 17th, which the handrails are being finished as we speak, and the siding has been corrected. Vehicle parking is restricted on the, to a hard surface driveway or inside the garage. Daily parking will continue to be issued for failure to comply. Shed and driveway projects, submit site plans and permit application to inspection office no later than February 15th, 2023. Re-inspection fees, you would have to make an appeal to the protection and policy committees to request a waiver of these fees. Regarding the shed, when will it be restored? And that's a date of late April, early May. And it's extensive work that's involved with the tearing out of the driveway.
yeah, well, if you have a question, go ahead.
Is this single family or is this? do you rent?
Single family.
And how long have you owned this?
Since 2018, and I had a partner, and then I decided I bought him out, and then I took it around 2001. So 2000.
I just have a question. So it looks like the first the re-inspection fee was for the scrap lumber and the vehicle parking. Did you guys discuss the timeline for that? Were you in agreement for the September 9th?
Yeah, the scrap lumber, which was part of the rebuilding of the shed, was on the side of the shed. We then moved it to the back of the shed, and where it's fenced, there was a temporary fence put up in order. But then I was told the following day that it was still there, and I have the phone, the text messages saying, no, it's not, because I paid a guy to remove it, and it was absolutely removed. But I was told that there was lumber still on the side of the shed, and it wasn't so. I took pictures and so forth.
Okay.
So then every time you met with staff, you worked out, you discussed a plan, a process to clean up the site and get the work done?
Yes, I spoke with the engineer that went to school with my son upstairs, and he drew out a diagram for me in which I could proceed to. And when you're doing something of that magnitude, you want to be careful as to future, the encumbrances, because I want to take down as few trees as possible. And so we've got it down to 2, because I think there's an excess of 22 trees there, and I didn't want to take down any, but we'll end up having to take down 2, and doing so and putting the driveway, and widening the driveway, and then moving the shed back there and make it accessible. It's really a beautiful piece of property.
I have no further questions.
I have a question or two. I have questions for staff too.
Yeah, me
I
too.
was gonna say I have questions.
More staff. So I guess the question is, what was the delay on getting the siding done?
Miscommunication.
So when you say miscommunication on whose
Well,
part?
An example would be that I came to City Hall to pay a parking ticket, and then the young lady said that, well, you also have an additional parking ticket. I said, well, we've got to pay it, you got to pay it, you got to pay it. But in conversation with staff here at City Hall, I found out that I had been, a message was left on my phone, which we had been communicating by text messages. So a voicemail was left. Well, I have in excess, half the time I don't know how to operate this phone or what those sounds you hear are for. I have absolutely no idea. And once I discovered I had been contacted, I texted Tim that evening, and he said, yeah, I did call you. I saw that there was a private call at 9:55 a.m. And if it wasn't for the staff here, I would have never known that he had communicated with me that way. So then we proceeded back to text messages where we were able to communicate clearer and better. And so I acted on those things immediately.
Any other questions?
More for staff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Oh,
Thank you so
We're
much.
not done yet. But you're done.
Rock the ball.
You're done at the moment.
I love that
Yeah,
t-shirt.
done for the moment, yeah. Motion to close the floor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay? All right, guys have it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. No.
You can wait to listen, you don't have to leave, it's up to you.
So in your packet, I have a timeline for you.
Yep.
Just go over that briefly. The first large photos are from the photos from the first inspection. So this complaint was received on August 31st, 2022. Initial inspection was done by Inspector Tim Neves on September 1st, 2022. 6 violations were noted, first one being on-site parking violation, vehicles being parked on the lawn. That photo is in your packet. Exterior storage of the scrap lumber, building materials on the side and the rear of the garage. The resident's front porch missing left side guardrail at the top of the deck, and missing guardrails and handrails on both open sides. Missing a top row section of siding at the upper front balcony. The detached garage, peeling paint above the overhead garage door, and the shed, which you mentioned was in dilapidated condition and in disrepair. Notice was mailed to the property owner on September 1st. Those 6 items were noted as violations. Completion by dates for the lesser items were given as September 6th for the vehicle parking, because that can be cited by parking utility that day, because vehicles can't be parked on the lawn except during Packer games. So that was given a due date of September 6th by the inspector. Removal of scrap lumber and building materials, September 9th. The installation of the guardrails and handrails, October 6th. October 6th for the replacing the missing siding, peeling paint, and then as well as repair or remove the shed. On September 9th, Inspector Meaves met with the property owner on site to discuss each violation and the requirements for compliance, observed and pointed out continued parking violation, and advised owner parking tickets may be issued. September 12th, email from property owner, immediate violations per list will be completed by week's end. That was received, that was sent on September 12th. September 19th is when the first reinspection fee was issued. Inspector Meaves conducted an inspection. Noted violation 1 and 2 were not corrected and past due. Violation number 1 was the vehicle parking. Two was the scrap lumber and building storage materials. Issued a reinspection fee, requested parking utility to ticket illegally parked vehicles, sent an email to property owner alerting him that the scrap lumber and building materials had not been removed as he stated it would, and thus a reinspection fee was issued. In addition, informed him that Public Works lot cleanup on his property may be scheduled. Conducted a follow-up inspection on September 21st, 2 days later. Noted violation number 2 was corrected. The scrap lumber and building materials were removed. Violation number 1 involving the vehicle parking was not corrected. We notified the parking utility at that time that parking ticket was issued. Next follow-up was in October, and that's kind of where we lost communication with the owner. Violations continued, hence why we followed our protocol of issuing the inspection fees. Weren't getting any progress until recently. In the packet, you'll see the photos of some examples of showing the lack of progress that was being made, showing the violations that were continuing. As of recently, Mr. Rome made a couple office visits into our office, met with mayoral staff. Mayoral staff brought Mr. Rome up to our office. I met with him personally twice. After the second time meeting with him, kind of going over what was needed, spoke to the inspector again. Mr. Rome is making progress. The last page, last email you'll see, siding is replaced. So that is in a state of repair. Vehicle is now parked on the approved parking surface. That is repaired and he's making progress, which hopefully by tomorrow, the inspector will follow up and see that the handrails and guardrails are being repaired. Time frame for the site plan submittal and building permits was given to him for February 15th to get a plan in place for expanding his driveway. So we have that on file. And then we also gave him an extension until April looks like 28th to get repairs made to the shed that's needed. So reason why in this case the fee served its purpose, it reestablished communication again. So as we do with all these, a lot of these wouldn't have to be if we see progress. If progress is being made, we don't want to issue fees because this takes time out of our inspector schedules, having to go up and continuously follow up on items that need to be repaired. So once we see that residents are working with us, we're heading in the right direction, we have no problem granting extensions as long as progress is being made. Any questions for me?
So then, when it's all done, inspectors would then consider the whole project and the whole time frame, and then decide if the fees were necessary, or?
No, the fees are issued because deadlines weren't met. And communication wasn't being received. So the inspector communicated, we gave some deadlines, said, all right, I'm going to get them completed. When we followed up, it wasn't done. That's why the fee was issued.
Right.
So then when communication breaks down or progress stops, that's our enforcement tool.
Right.
Say, we can't argue, we're not going to beg you. It's a violation, needs to be corrected. So every time that I have to send an inspector to continue to follow up, that's a cost to the city. That's a cost to the taxpayers that are following the rules and ordinances and stuff. So if we have to continuously follow up, there's a service charge for that. That's the purpose of the fee.
Right.
So we don't like to do it if we're making progress, and we can note, we can document. If somebody should question, well, why are you giving them more time? We can show, well, here's the progress that individual is making. We have no problem doing that. We do that with everybody. But if progress isn't being made, if deadlines aren't being met, there's some accountability that needs to be held there. So we feel that that's appropriate.
But in the past, didn't they, when there was breakdowns and then it picked up again, when it was all done, didn't staff reassess to see if the fees could be reduced or rescinded, or they should be enforced? I thought that happened after a project was finished, no?
I'll consider it if there's a justifiable reason to rescind the fee. Some of the directives that were given lately, though, is to make sure that, it's for enforcement action. There's criteria, there's service that needs to be provided. So, but I'm sending inspectors out to follow up on all those complaints. If there's a justifiable reason to do so, by all means, I'd rather have that, that time and that money spent in to beautifying properties and doing that. But if we're having to continuously push that, there's a cost to that.
Yep.
Can I ask, so when you guys issued the first reinspection fee for the lumber material, was it moved at all or just completely still where it was in the initial spot. Could you see any, I guess, action towards it, or just wasn't to the standard that you guys were expecting?
It's my understanding that it wasn't taken care of, it wasn't met. It
Wasn't touched at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't done till after that comment, and then 2 days later, that's when it was corrected.
Are we able to see the picture, or asked to see the picture?
Yeah, I don't have them with me, but I can show you, I can get you a picture, yeah.
Okay, because I know you said you had one, so if we're able to see that,
Staff also has one.
okay.
And Tim has been the inspector?
Correct.
The reason why he's not here tonight?
I cover that. I mean, that would be another cost to the city for having myself and then the inspector here, so.
So during your communication, did you come to determine why communication dropped off and now it started up again?
That's up to the homeowner to decide that. I mean, we provided them the orders, we provided them the ability to contact us.
Is it a question that's asked to the residents?
Sure, yeah, I mean, if we get ahold of them, yeah, if they follow up with us, if they establish a rapport, we'll ask them why haven't you followed through?
But you don't know if that question was asked or not?
I don't.
If a deadline is decided on and they're approaching that deadline and it's just not going to happen, if they reach out to you, is there possible to further extend without any penalty with that? Okay.
Yeah, as long as we see progress, or as long as there's a justifiable reason to why, things aren't being done. I mean, some of these items are, building code violations as well as ordinance violations. Handrails and guardrails on 4 or more risers is a safety issue, so.
Questions?
No, it's fine. I was just a little confused.
So what, refresh our memory, what's the total? that we discussing?
$150,
That's
I
the
think,
total.
as of January 9th, was that correct?
Correct.
That's
That does
just
not include the
re-inspection.
parking?
No, the parking violation has to be appealed through municipal prosecutor.
I believe you paid those.
Yes, they were paid.
Normal, our fees were $50 reinspection fees. Those increased in January 1 as council approved. Wanted it to go up to 75, so that's why starting January 1, those increased to $75 per trip.
Just a refresher from the last time we had something like this. So if this isn't paid, it just goes on the tax bill or something
As a
like
special
that?
assessment on the taxes, yep.
Are we okay to open the floor?
Do you have anything else for Bill?
I don't.
Thank you.
Is it possible?
Yep, motion to open the floor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The young engineer that was upstairs within a matter of weeks, I want to say, I was upstairs to go over the expansion of the garage and so forth. This is when communications dropped off, because this is the drawings that the engineer had given me. I was instructed by Tim that he would speak with the engineer. If I was going up there today, that he would speak with them, and had he did so, then we wouldn't be here today. But this is what the engineer gave me as far as what I could do with the property, with those garage and with that setback, because everything was undersized. And so in enlarging it, this is what was given to me. Had the inspector spoken with the engineer like he said he would, and he did on one occasion beforehand, the day before, then we wouldn't be at an impasse now. But this is exactly, this is his drawing, his writing, his everything. And this is when communications broke off, because I was under the impression that Tim had spoken with the engineer.
But now with inspections?
Yes, because this, everything was included in this.
Bill?
Thank you.
Because it's
He's referring to.
It's a pretty big project.
The garage and the repair and move, that all comes to our office.
And who was the engineer?
That's what my question is, who's the engineer that was talking about?
The young engineer, he went to school with my son,
But do you know his name?
a young guy.
That doesn't help.
Young heavyset guy. I've got his card, but I couldn't find it to bring it. Graduated West High School, UWG. I could have it for you. First thing in, 6th floor.
Are you talking our zoning administrator,
Zoning administrator.
John Leroy?
John Leroy.
Okay, he's
John
not an
Leroy.
engineer, he's a zoning administrator.
Yeah, well, I spoke with John, and these are his drawings. This is all of his work. And he had first had been in communication with Tim Eves, and then the following day, this all, so I was under the impression,
Can I see that paper?
when I wasn't getting cited, then I was under the impression that the communication chain was still intact.
We'll give it back.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, what about September 12th, when you sent an email saying the immediate violations per list will be completed by week's end? If you go back to September 12th on 2020.
If that was the lumber was absolutely moved, every bit and piece of it, because it was put into the shed. So the guy didn't have, it was absolutely nothing there. And I also sent a text message to that effect saying, what do you mean? Because I had got received a message about mistakes and things. This is called left questions. It's so important because I was adamant about it not being anything there. I even actually went back outside, took pictures. There was nothing there, but I was told that there's something there, and so I was, in essence, I was saying, well, show me where it's at. There's nothing there. And then he said, well, I'll issue you a $50 ticket for that, and
So that sheet of paper that says site plan, is that yours personally, or did that come from City Hall?
that was shown what I could do. That's Mr. Leroy's drawings as to what I could do with that property, because it's a unique piece of property.
Sure, I understand that. But this sheet of paper right here, was this issued by the city, or did you bring this into the city?
I brought that in and we worked on it to show what we could do, what I could do with the
Because you said there
property.
was a miscommunication, you stopped communication after this piece of paper.
But we were in agreement that that's what I could do. So had he touched bases, then the chain would have continued. There wouldn't have been a broken link in the chain.
Yeah.
I'm more than glad to correct it because it's really, it needs it.
If he was in the office and that was approved, you could have pulled a permit that day. And that's what the last item that we agreed with on February 15th of 2023 that needs to happen. That's exactly what needs to happen. He needs to get an approved site plan. John Leroy, our zoning administrator, would review that, approve that, and then our building inspection department would issue a permit and grant that once we receive all of that information. So if that information was completed and he submitted that while here, that could have been reviewed and wouldn't be in this situation.
So you would accept that?
Yes. John would have given it to our inspector, he would have given it to our site plan administrator, along with the building permit application. We reviewed it for the zoning regulations. If it met the criteria based on his proposed site plan, it would have been approved. When Mr. Rome came in in January, I gave him that same packet. for the garage.
How long is the permit good for, once it's pulled?
1 year.
1 year.
I wouldn't let them break personally.
September 7th, coming round, find around, put in the place, thanks and plans.
Still trying to find that?
Yeah, I have it. I definitely have it. It's these phones.
Do you remember roughly the date on it?
I'm looking back and this is, the following complaint was submitted via city website, house and garage, rundown and casting of negative effect on property values. The garage has a tarp on the roof and is in extreme disrepair. The driveway is not kept up. I have no idea who submitted the complaint, as was left with no name, email, or phone number. As I recall, the only violation to be corrected today is to be removed. Remove the parking vehicle and trailer in the yard at the right. I'm on the calendar to visit your property Wednesday, the 7th, so right after here is when the lumber was absolutely removed. The guy that's doing the porch now, I don't know if it's return or, I was adamant about it because I went out and took pictures and said, what are you talking about? There's absolutely, when you're right, every single thing was moved. It was even groomed and the trailer put in its place, so it's,
Well, we do have some of this, what you've read in our document, in our packet here.
So this is me contacting the contractor to do the work, and it was a short notice because I called him that week, and of course he's busy with other things, but I'm trying to.
So,
Sure.
I observed the scrap.
That was on September 19th.
But his initial, when we sat on the same property here,
There was lumber right here, but this is right.
true, but the pile he made mention of was on the side of the shed. The pile was in excess of 4.5 feet tall by at least 3 feet.
You can see the scrap lumber there. Right there.
This, no,
This was a photo taken by the inspector on the 19th.
I observed that scrap lumber building materials remain at the site of the garage stay, and so I issued a $50 reinspection fee. The
So
pile,
this was the original picture.
if you could, Bill, if you could find the scrap pile with a picture taken out, the scrap pile he was making reference to is 4.5 feet tall by at least 3 feet wide.
so you moved some lumber, but.
We moved all the lumber, we moved it all.
But there's still some there.
That I don't know if you put there temporarily or what have you, but the pile we were making reference to, because we were out there and we spoke about
We
it.
have a photo of that, of the original pile.
Yes, that pile,
Right.
which had fallen over.
It's September 1st.
And then this was moved on. And that put in, that pile, which is about 4 feet tall, and that's, some of it haven't been moved.
Okay, so there's the pile. Okay, that was September 1st. Go back to the 19th.
I observed that the scrap lumber building materials remain at the site of the garage today, and so I issued a $50 reinspection fee. In addition, it has been referred to DPW for a lot cleanup Wednesday. Unless you can beat the crew to the cleanup, they will remove the items and invoice
So then on the 21st.
you for work. Please address
He sent you
ASAP.
that on the 19th, so let's pull up the 21st. Okay, here's the 2 days later, after he sent you that. See, it's gone from the trailer, so you removed it from the trailer, and you removed it from there.
True.
That was correct.
But this, my point being, is when me and Tim was standing no more than 10 feet from this spot, it was the lumber on the south side of the shed. Had it been that, it would have just been easy to move those few pieces, but he made emphasis on the south side of the shed. And so then, that's the reason I questioned him after he told me he would reissue a ticket. I said, what in God's creation are you talking about? It's gone. The guys were there pretty much all day because they had to build a fence in the back, only to have us to remove the lumber from the back of the shed with a fence so you couldn't see it from the road or the street or anything. They had a fence. Then we had to remove that and end up putting it all in the shed. So it would have been nothing for them to take that minute piece of lumber and throw it in there.
So you thought it was, you were talking about lumber, but there was more lumber than that, and so,
Only because we specifically said that lumber, which was at that time 4.5 by 3 feet easily.
And this lumber was being used for the...
That's gonna be used for that shed, that's part of that shed. And so when it's relocated, then it'll be moved inside it and made beautiful.
Any other questions?
Puts bedrooms together.
We'll keep the floor open, so you guys inspection.
We're arguing about a fee for the inspection that day. Was that inspection fee just for the lumber, or is it for other things like the railings and stuff that aren't fixed as of today?
It applies for all of it.
For all of it.
If we see progress that's being made, we won't charge a fee
Right.
if there's progress. But
So
when we get
that-
there, not only that we're debating about the lumber, the vehicle was still parked on the lawn. That was a violation as well. It was inspected.
So if that lumber was in the shed, he still would have got the inspection fee.
Could have, yes.
Good.
But the guardrails weren't required to be done until October 6th. So
So when
That
Tim was
wasn't
going
passed.
back, he went through all of those items and specifically said these items need to get corrected. The original date was the 6th for the parking of the vehicle and 9th, September 9th for the lumber. He went back on the 19th and the lumber wasn't all removed, some of it was removed, but not all of it, as well as the vehicle was still parked on the lawn. The issue why there was continuous fees is because Mr. Rome continued to park the vehicle on the lawn because he felt that that was the only spot that he could park that vehicle there. It's an ordinance violation. You can't prove that.
And after 20 years of being parked there, didn't have the opportune time to find some place to relocate it or whatever. It's my uncle's vehicle, he's a retired policeman, detective, and so I keep the vehicle for just sentimental reasons. But it had been there for 20 years. And so if I'd been given ample time to get it relocated or put it in storage or what have you, I would have gladly have done that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I was going by that clock back there, I thought I'd been here 4 hours.
That was wrong.
Thank you so much.
Any questions among us, comments?
Don't have any questions?
discussion?
Discussion? Well, I got a few things I could say. In the past, when we seem to have an applicant who is trying to get the work done, has gotten some work done, and there's been some miscommunications, some misunderstandings, not necessarily on staff's part. We always try to give them a little benefit of the doubt and would like maybe reduce the fine to some degree. However, that was in the past. Council has made it a point during our budget that these inspection things our fees are very important to the city. So, I believe we have an applicant who is trying to do the right thing. I think staff did the right thing with the breakdown in communications. And if there's misunderstandings, staff doesn't know there's misunderstandings. They're doing the right thing. And I certainly want to support staff and certainly would not want to, because part of this is also on the owner, I would not want to rescind the entire thing, but I could see perhaps reducing it slightly, but is that a budgetary concern for some alders?
I mean, I agree, I do see progress made. Communication is there, I know it's not steady, but like you said, there's a breakdown here and there, but there is still communication, and I'm glad you showed up and talked to us today. I mean, that shows effort too. We've had people not show up at all to these, so yeah, I agree.
I'm questioning how some of these more important ones haven't been cleared up sooner. The wood pile was violation, sure, but these other things are taking forever, so I see that the inspections did their job. I'm not gonna question that.
I don't think I'm questioning inspection's job. They did their job. They did their job, what they should do. But sometimes, the world being as it is, not a perfect world, there can be miscommunications, there can be misunderstandings, and as long as I feel like we're not trying to be scammed or whatever, we give a little leeway to that, give it some consideration.
Well, it looks like re-inspections aren't consistent. We got one here for January 3rd, re-inspection, January 4th, re-inspection, and within 24 hours, it looks like you got nailed twice. The month of November, one inspection. So it's not very consistent. Can you explain why he has re-inspection within 24 hours in January?
Are you talking about are you looking at the fees, when the fees were issued? Because
It says re-inspection.
Yeah, so
May not be-
when that's, the invoice of when it's processed, we could go to daily reinspection fees. The inspector assigned it to our compliance inspector in December, and then that's when fees became more frequent. Inspector Meads was only doing them once every week, once every couple of weeks, checking for progress from September 21st. Was when the building materials were removed. His next follow-up inspection was October 10th. So inspector gave the owner quite a bit of time there in order to work towards compliance. When we went back, violations were not corrected, he issued a fee then. Gave him 2 more weeks, followed up 2 more weeks to check. Another fee, another reinspection fee was issued. Then he gave him a month, from October to November. So it is, but we're checking for compliance, we're checking for progress. Inspector has a lot of these that, each inspector's housing zoning inspectors, I have 4 total, 2 on each side, they receive a lot of complaints. If there is a complete communication breakdown or no progress is happening, then it hits a nuisance category. So then our inspections are more frequent in order to stimulate communication, so we can get communication going. If we get absolutely no communication, there's no way for us to rectify the ordinance violation, which becomes a nuisance, a public nuisance.
I disagree with the inconsistencies.
Oh, the floor's not open, sorry.
Once our re-inspections were done more frequent, that's what elicited in-person communication, got us towards the path of compliance. So our enforcement tool was effective and worked.
No, I think staff is appropriate. I think it's unfortunate there were some misunderstandings, some breakdowns in communication, but staff isn't responsible for that, per se. I don't know, there was one breakdown. Well, on 6th floor there, supposedly, with, not Tim.
Mr. Leroy?
Yeah, Mr. Leroy, thank you. Mr. Rome thought Mr. Leroy was going to communicate with inspections, and whether that was Mr. Leroy's intent or not, that didn't happen. So there's miscommunication either between Mr. Leroy and Mr. Rome, or Mr. Rome misunderstood, or so.
I would like to see this up be completed.
don't know if we can hold this.
Ernie, you can hold this?
Sure.
Yes. Like, reviewed at the next committee meeting.
Those items to be completed.
Not the driveway, driveway wouldn't be completed till May, yeah.
Talk about the driveway, I have a question about the driveway. In 2014, the driveway was addressed. Well, it being gravel. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Is there a specific complaint?
Yeah, there was a complaint in 2014,
Okay.
but now it's been closed, so we're 9 years later, we're dealing with the driveway again. So.
Different issue, I think. I don't think it's,
He was parking on the lawn in this circumstance. Mr. Rome is wanting to expand his driveway, so if somebody had a gravel driveway and a hard surface, I'd have to look at the specific complaint, Alder Stevens, that you're referring to. But in this circumstance, the issue was parking. It was parking his vehicle on the lawn. This wasn't an approved parking surface that he was parking in. He was parking underneath a tree underneath the lawn to the right of the shed. I'd have to look at that specific complaint from 2014 to see what exactly the complaint was. And gravel driveways are grandfathered, provided they're being maintained. If a gravel driveway isn't being maintained, they can be ordered out, or they can be ordered to be hard surface.
Or you want to expand them, then you need to bring them up to code.
I'm just gonna say, I hate the thought that we would have to count fees like this to solve our tax issues with our homeowners install, stuff like that, but I think it might be a good idea to see how much we put this on hold for now and see if we can see improvement, and then at that time, see what is fair.
before we put it on hold, it's more than a driveway that still needs to be done, correct?
Yes, handrails, guardrails, the shed needs to be repaired, and then Mr. Rome wants to expand his driveway. That's kind of separate. We don't need to have that in order to get compliance, provided the vehicle isn't parked on the lawn. Shed needs to be repaired, and the other items on the list need to be.
And has he given you a timeline for those other items?
He has worked out an extension with Inspector.
Okay, and when will those items be done?
He has agreed that the shed will be done in April, early May, so I have notes here, April 27th or 28th of 2023 for the shed. Property owner agrees to submit a permit application and site plan to inspection office for proposed driveway expansion and shed relocation by February 15th. The handrails, guardrails are going to be done tomorrow. So the inspector is going to follow up on those tomorrow.
So hold, maybe table it until,
Our next meeting is February 27th, council March 7th.
So if his vehicles are put in storage, as he mentioned, or something else, then there's no driveway issue?
Yeah, correct. Right now, there's no driveway issue. If you look at the last picture that I provided in your packet,
Yes.
the vehicles are parked in compliance. So there is no issue. It's parked on the approved driveway.
I think the only thing with the driveway is tied in with the shed moving somehow, if I understand. Yep. So it's really the shed we're concerned about. So we could table this until,
Can I just point out, though, that I know you've brought up budget references, but this is really SOP for us.
Right.
This isn't, we haven't stepped up
Yeah.
anything differently out of the budget. This is just SOP.
right.
Right.
I just want to
Right.
be, I just want to be clear about that.
Oh, yeah, I'm
I
sorry, I
just-
suppose I should have been more clear on that.
I know.
Yeah, my apologies. Yeah,
The way I work
yeah,
it
it's
too.
not, yeah.
I feel we have to make our judgment, not
Right.
bring.
I
Right.
don't make my decisions
Right.
based on your budget.
Right.
We'll make,
Right.
it's an enforcement tool. The
Right.
purpose of it is for communication and it is for
Right.
compliance. That's the goal. If people are working for it, it would be great if we had a shortcoming because everybody's doing what they're supposed to.
Mhm.
That's not the case
Yeah.
often.
But the change from 50 to 75 was tied in with the budget and, yeah. How about we table this until April to see that the shed is taken care of, because we're gonna have to wait for the driveway to be done for the shed to be done. And then we can assess the whole lot.
What's your motion?
What's the date?
What was the date for the shed for?
It's April 27th to 28th. Does that sound correct?
So our next meeting after that,
So it'd be the first meeting in May.
first meeting in May.
I'll keep it.
What date is that?
20th is a
May
Friday.
1st.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's
I
not.
believe it will be May 8th. They're not on the website.
My motion is to table this until our first meeting in May.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? All right, ayes have it.
Thank you so much, board. Thank you so much. I won't let you down.
Don't forget your
Have a
papers,
wonderful
sir.
evening.
Oh, yeah.
Have a
Do you
wonderful-
have your permits and everything yet, or?
Well, I'll need this to show him the diagram.
I see, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thanks, have a wonderful evening.
Ready? Number 9, consideration of possible action on appeal by H&P Family, 1368. Let's screw that up. What's that street?
Beamer.
Beamer Street, regarding an appeal of invoice 164984. Yeah?
I'm gonna refer to the PD. It's their charges.
We met
Thanks.
we had a meeting with the Smeester family in reference to this property. I just talked to our CPs that work that area. They've had no issues. I do believe the problem tenants, they have filed for eviction, which our main goal is just to abate the nuisance and make the neighborhood better. So with knowing that they filed for the eviction, they're also seeking restitution. The PD has no issue. Whatever the committee wants to do in terms of the invoice, I know it was a relatively small invoice. But after our meeting, they have been working with us, and our main goal is to get the problem resolved, and I believe through the eviction, it will be resolved where we won't have any more issues there.
So it's $175.
And 16 cents.
16 cents. Okay. Comments or questions?
I don't know, do we need to open the floor or anything? I
There's
mean,
no
if everything's
We can open the
Yeah,
floor.
motion open floor.
All right, do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys are the homeowners?
This is homeowner, I am the property manager.
Okay.
Okay.
I need you to state your name.
My
and
name is
your
Keith
address.
Larson.
And your address.
750 Northview Road, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311.
Thank you. Questions?
It sounds, well, you're working with the police, it sounds like you've been working with the police to,
Yes,
and it's been a problem tenant,
yes, sassy tenant.
and when will they be, when's the eviction
We
notice
have
for?
court tomorrow, and like I say, I did speak with the tenant about 4 or 5 days ago, and she claimed that she promised that she would be out. So I've kind of been pushing her really hard to get out because I told her we're involved. So we have a court hearing about 2:30 tomorrow. So I believe that she will be gone. She had put most of her stuff in storage. She has no place to go, which I don't feel so bad.
So how many police calls were made to this property?
I don't have my computer in front of me to know that.
'Cause I know it takes a while for you to start billing.
Yeah, and I do know we met with them approximately a couple months ago, and went over, and they have been working with us. I believe this bill was sent very shortly thereafter. But with the eviction coming through and them doing everything we ask, we have no issue, whatever the committee decides with the bill, because they have been working with us. Like I said, our main issue is we want to make the neighborhood better for everyone else, and we believe this will solve that problem.
But we're unsure what the commissioner might do tomorrow in court.
Yeah, they are still under abatement, so yeah, As long as they're working with us, yes, we could still bill, but by filing the eviction and showing a good faith effort to work with us, that's all we ask for. We do realize sometimes eviction, and I'm sure you're aware, others, eviction sometimes could take a very long time. But as long as they continue to stay in communication with us, with all their court processes, working with the community police officer in that area, we feel confident the problem will be solved. And if the communication stops, then since they are still under abatement, then we could start billing again for our services.
Sort of like inspections.
Pretty much.
Okay.
It sounds like they're working together, so I would say.
Yeah, well, do we need to, anything else we wish to add, or
I'm sorry, Kim, here's.
anything you wish to add?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Anything you wish to add, tell us, anything more?
You were doing the best we can to get her out of there, and she's a problem person, the best way to say it politely.
And how long she been renting from you?
5 years, and everything kind of went south on her end, and it's just been a circus, best way to say it, so we're doing the best that we can to make this problem totally go away, and hopefully she'll move out of Brown County. I'm serious.
So it's just lease agreement issues or is it financial too for you?
It was a little of each, actually. We tried to give her the, the forgiveness thing, but that she just fell through the cracks. So it was kind of a bad situation. We're doing the best that we can to make her, disappear, as we say it.
Any other questions?
Nope.
No. All right, well, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to close the floor.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to, grant the appeal. That's the word, grant. That's what I was looking for. Grant, imagine, I forgot the word grant.
Second.
Second, okay, Alderman Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
so we'll go to common council for approval on the 7th, just so you know. Okay. Informational, 1 through 4, can we just do all the receive and place the file all at once at the end?
Once we get the report.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because I'll wait to them individually.
A motion to take these all up in one vote.
Suspend the rules?
Okay.
Suspend the rules, oh yes, motion to suspend the rules.
You have to give the
Motion to
report.
suspend the rules.
Do you have a second? I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take these all up in one vote after we hear the reports.
Second. Do we do them?
No, we suspended the
Oh,
rules.
suspended the rules.
Now we're making the motion to do it.
Okay, make a motion.
I
Do you have a second? All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Okay, informational liquor violation report for January 23rd, 2023.
We have nothing to report during this time frame.
Beautiful, thank you. 2, clerk's office liquor license report.
To date, the city of Green Bay has issued 167 of the 172 available Class B combination liquor and beer licenses. The city has granted 5 licenses that have not yet been issued, and the clerk's office cannot take any more applications for available liquor licenses at this time. And as far as reserve licenses, we have a quota of 23. 1 has been issued and 1 has been granted but not yet been issued.
Number 3, a report by the clerk regarding the November 8th, 2022 election. Clerk Jeffries.
So in your packet, there's a report, and what I'll do is I'll just go over the highlights. So the report begins with just some stats about the November election. Then back last year, the committee had talked about potentially having, and it certainly is, I think, a good goal for the city to have alternate in-person absentee locations. So just some reminders that these locations have to be approved by council 2 weeks before absentee ballots go out for the primary election. So in that case, for next year, I'm not suggesting, nor is it appropriate at this time because it is too late and there is no budget. But for next year, for 2024, which will be a presidential year, that we should consider alternate IPAB sites. So we'd have to do those in early June for the fall, or basically by the end of the year for the spring. Some things we should consider, should there be 2 sites or 1? Alternate meaning not in the clerk's office at all. We would also have to have identical hours if they were, if we had 2 sites. That whole east side, west side thing that we have here in Green Bay, for instance, they'd obviously have to be ADA accessible. I also wanted to put into the report the idea that, I know that there is a facilities use committee that is meeting, but perhaps there's a possibility of us renovating the first floor to not only better accommodate elections for high turnout, but then also tax collection, for instance. There are lots of budget considerations for alternate sites, computer, furniture, storage, office supplies, ballot security materials, police escort, data entry specialist, and greeter salaries. So before we head into budget in November of 2023, I'll present you with some options. For the next 2 elections that we have, IPAB will be in the clerk's office again. I expect the turnout to be, for in-person absentee rather, I expect that to be relatively average, and so our office can well accommodate that. There is a diagram, the last page of the document, where essentially we won't have any data entry specialists for these 2 elections, just our staff. So we'll have the issuing, obtaining, witnessing ballots at those 2 windows, and then I'll have those red dots are basically stations. I'll put the express vote in the hallway because a staff member has to stand by the express vote in order to basically make it work. I did give you some highlights about all the different absentee ballot types that we have in the state of Wisconsin. And then the question, the communication was, what is the ballot security? So I've laid out the life cycle of an absentee ballot. Essentially, ballots have barcodes on them, not only on the outer envelope, but on the certificate envelope. The barcode is tied to a voter. The ballots get issued inside the ballot certificates. They go to the mailroom, they come back to us, we sort them, and then we put them in bins that are ward-based. We alphabetize them, and they're stored in a secure area until Election Day. I will provide another report on the April general election in May. So questions from the committee?
Questions?
I know it's kind of early, but any possible ideas for where alternate sites could possibly be? I know just finding polling locations is difficult.
Well, I would say that, obviously I've spoken to you many times that I believe it is important for the voters of Green Bay to have consistent, predictable polling locations, and that includes in-person absentee. I do not like to engage in hypotheticals in public meeting.
Yeah.
As you well know.
Yeah.
So I do have some thoughts, but I will have those thoughts
Okay.
completely wrapped up before budget.
So you think there may be possibilities?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
but it is definitely a budgetary consideration, without doubt.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't know if this is appropriate to ask right now, but I know we were able to extend our in-person hours for the November election. Did we see a decrease in mail-in ballots at all? Or is there no comparison to that?
So what's interesting about, becoming the clerk last year, when the canvas is issued by the county, they don't separate the absentee ballots from the at-polls ballots. And so when I do my counts, I don't have the information from the county, so I'd have to rely on my own information. As I see that the in-person absentee and the absentee ballots are all the same for us, really. So we had a very brisk showing of in-person absentee ballots this time around in November. We had a total, as you can see, 10,000 and change absentee ballots. I would say it's brisk. I don't think that there's any relationship between people who vote in person and people who vote absentee by mail, keeping in mind of the various categories of absentee by mail.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and the only reason I ask about that is because obviously there was a budget increase to increase the hours, which I was okay with, but
Yeah.
it helps if we see, in my opinion, a decrease of mail-in then, because then we're saving on postage. Like more people are willing to come in because there's more opportunity to come in. So I just wanted to see if we had any benefits of doing that.
Well, but I would say that they're not one over the other, right? These are many options in the state of Wisconsin that are offered to voters. And I wouldn't say that we would want to see an increase or decrease in either of those if those are all the options. And so part of the reason why we had an increase in hours, I need a data entry specialist even if I had only done 8 to 5, quite frankly, because there's so many people coming in for in-person absentee for a November election.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
You bet.
Good clerk. Okay, number 4, all future protection policy committee meetings will be held at 6 p.m. moving forward.
Motion to open the floor.
Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Polly Razor, 419 East Captain Circle. So, thank you, Clerk Jeffers, for the update. I guess Alder Stevens as the chair, I did have some questions. It seems to me that the clerk should have information about how many were voted in person in the clerk's office versus how many were sent in, because that's a requirement for the state statutes on an EL 124 form to have that information. So it should be something that she could provide to you, this group. So you could ask her, I believe that's true, but I would wait for her to answer that. And then I guess the other question I would have, and part of what I don't know what Alder Berry was looking for exactly, but I as a citizen would be looking for more specifics on the life cycle of the absentee ballot, exactly if they come in through the mail, are they documented in WISVote right away? It says a secure area, what does that mean? Is it under lock and key? Who has access to that? At what times of the day? Secure area, is that just in the clerk's office being, or is it a locked vault or that sort of thing? So I think
I would assume it's in the vault.
Again, the information here provided wasn't, quite clear. Secure area is kind of a nuanced word. Are they immediately looked at, put into WISVote, documented that it came in for their tracking, and then I know that they're put into movable bins, alphabetized, but those are not kept in a secure envelope, or they're out every day, all day long to be looked at. So I guess the statutes speaks very specifically about how ballots need to be stored and kept and what happens to them when they arrive. So I would just ask that state statutes are reviewed and followed to a T. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close the floor.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Oh,
Janet Angus.
there's
Hi.
there's somebody on Zoom?
Yep.
Janet Angus is on Zoom. I think, Janet, are you trying to unmute? She just muted herself again, I think.
Did we need to open the floor again? I can't remember. Did we take a vote?
Motion to open the floor.
Did you just close it?
We might have.
Sorry, I'm listening to her speak up here. I don't know if she was, Janet, are you trying to speak? Because you muted yourself twice.
Yes, can you hear me?
Are we good to,
Yep.
do we need
Yes,
to
but
open the floor again?
The
or-
floor is closed. Do you want to speak?
I believe
Yes,
Okay.
Motion-
yes.
Jen made a motion to,
And she-
and I
Oh,
you
seconded
seconded.
it.
Oh, okay, well then.
So motion by Alder Grant, second by Alder Moore. All
Aye.
in favor? Aye. Amazing. Okay, floor is now open.
She's muted again. I'm not sure if she can hear us or.
Ms. Angus?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Her microphone is muted again.
Oops, can you hear me now? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Yes.
I'm really bad at this Zoom stuff. Can Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Janet Angus, 1403 Shirley Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
I would like to have the question of the secure location of the ballots answered. I'm very concerned about where they're stored, who has access to them, and how that's all handled. I know that as an observer, I've seen people go in and out of the clerk's office who are not staff. And if staff is going to have access to the clerk's office, that's one question. But if they're going to be just stored in the clerk's office and people have access to all those ballots, I would like to have that question answered of where they're stored, how the storage works. I was told at one point they were stored in a vault, and then I was told that was incorrect. So I think we need to look at, well, my question would be is where are the ballots stored overnight? How are they secured? Another question I have is report that was requested. I'm not sure what the parameters of it was for the request, but there was no mention regarding the issues of observers that resulted in a lawsuit and a judge entering an order to allow observers to observe in the hallway for early voting. There was no mention of the observers, where they're supposed to be located, and what rights the observers do have under state statute and how that's going to be handled. So I do have questions regarding the observers and how that will be handled and why that's not included in the report, unless of course that wasn't within the parameters of what was requested. I have not talked to Aldo Leary about any of this, so I'm not sure what he asked. And the last thing is, I was shocked as a member of our community when at, I believe, 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon, the police department showed up at City Hall and shut down our whole first floor and locked it down at the last election. And I'm not sure if you on the Protection and Policy Committee knew that, but that was not included as part of the report. Is that going to be something that happens with elections going forward, as far as the first floor and being able to observe the return of absentee ballots, the return of our polling people when they bring in the items from, the actual polling locations. There was a police officer, a number of them on the first floor of City Hall, and even though the building was open to the public, it was locked. It was locked down. So that was not included in the report, and neither was what the protocol would be going forward and why. And then something else that's not included in the report is, will observers be allowed to observe the actual return of absentee ballots? My opinion is the return of an absentee ballot is the casting of a ballot pursuant to statute. And observers are not allowed to watch that any longer. So what are the parameters of that going to be, and is that something that was addressed in this report? And those are basically my questions and my observations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom that like to speak? Just make a motion to close.
Can I just ask one more question? What is our ability, Attorney Angus just asked a lot of questions, I asked questions. How do we as the public get those answered? Because it seems to me we've done this over and over and over again, but we don't get our questions answered. What is the means of doing that if it's not at these meetings?
Attorney, would you like to?
You're welcome to send a letter. I think, I'm not sure if you have or Attorney Angus has. I know Ms. Juneau has on numerous occasions, so we've responded to her questions as well as provided her records, documents. You're absolutely welcome to ask questions.
Many times the questions aren't answered. They're saying there's no documents to, we're only able to provide documents, not answer questions. I've seen some responses that way, including to even some of my own items. The other thing, I know like one of them is, are we sending letters to people who asked for an absentee ballot that didn't return the absentee ballot within 5 days of the election, and to notify them they'll be removed unless they renew their registration? Are we doing that? These are the things that we should be able to just ask, and we're not, it becomes this big ordeal. And so you're telling me, Attorney Court, that we can send a list of questions and have the questions answered, like such as that?
You can send the question. Whether someone has the answer for you or the records is really dependent on the questions that you ask. But in general, we're not required to answer requests for information. We do always respond to records requests. It really depends on the question that you ask. But I can think of an example myself where I've talked to Ms. Juneau about it and answered many questions and provided many documents for her.
Yeah, I understand the documents, but sometimes there's not documents.
We've also answered questions to the extent possible.
Okay.
I would note also for this request, although we asked specifically about iPad and ballots, and I understand the list of things that you and Attorney Angus are bringing up, but I think you all can decide whether they're within the scope of the report. So if you're alleging they should have been in the report, I don't think that was what was asked for.
Well, I think the process of when they come in and exactly the path when they're entered into WISVOTE, how they're stored. I mean, I think that was part of the report. That isn't.
I think that's covered in there.
Well, vaguely. And I think that's Ms. Angus is in my review of the report that it's a vague representation of what happens. And there are statutes that determine many of those things that aren't answered in this information according to the statute. So I think that's why we have these questions. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Do we have an opportunity to ask questions?
Do you have a question for?
No, I'm sorry, for staff.
Oh, well, let's take care of this first so we can close the floor.
Yes.
Take a motion to close the floor.
Is there anybody else?
Can't tell. Anybody else
Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak?
I'm not sure who those other two individuals are.
Looks like no one has unmuted themselves.
We'll take a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All LeGrand, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you had a question?
Yes, for Clerk Jeffries, can you tell us when they are entered into WISVOTE, the ballots?
Right away after we sort them.
Okay, so same day
Yes.
that they're received? Okay.
I mean, same business day, so we get ballots. We get ballots in the morning with the rest of the mail, and then they're entered into WISVOTE that day. Obviously, anything that comes in Monday has been received, was in the mail over the weekend.
Okay. And where are the ballots stored?
I'm deliberately vague because a secure area is meant to be secure. Because in the clerk's office, I said in the report that only clerk staff have access. They, meaning the ballots inside the certificates, are stored in a secure area. Only the clerk staff may have access to this area for election-related purposes. It's secure.
Okay.
It is locked when we're not in and out of it, because the clerk's office is locked.
Okay.
So it's secure, so the general public doesn't know where they're stored, so they could be stolen if someone
Correct.
chose to do it. Does a secured location move
Never.
each election or
Never.
same location?
No. Not with active ballots, no.
Okay.
And any ballots, so the county stores the ballots after Election Day. Any other election-related materials are stored in another secure area. We have several of them in City Hall.
I hear mention of a vault. Do I understand that it's not always just put in a locked vault of some sort?
We have several vaults in City Hall.
Who's all aware of the secure area?
Clerk staff and finance staff.
It's not their vault.
Do I understand right then, if someone does have a question, the question should be addressed to legal, not to the city clerk?
Any open records requests or questions, I automatically send to the law department if I receive them.
So Attorney Angus, question. You can send a letter to the law department. As I said, we've reviewed them, responded. I mean, I think there was a mention of a lawsuit that's part of that. I think Assistant City Attorney Mather is handling that for the city, and I'm not sure what the status is of it, but that's not something that was part of the report. But if you wanted to hear about the lawsuit, that's a separate matter. But
That's all resolved though, right? That's all?
I believe
Yeah.
it was at the time for observers, yes.
Right.
Can you explain the lockdown that happened on election afternoon? I know there was an error, or,
I think that was, the security was planned. The issue with lockdown isn't that anyone was being locked out, it was that the doors were locked, and there were people, both staff and the police department representatives on the first floor, that if someone came to the door, they said, I'm going to Central Count, or stated their purpose in the building, but people were allowed to come in and out. Staff opened the door for anybody who walked up to the door. It's just that those entrances were locked, otherwise at the end of business, I think, which would have been 4:30 or 5 o'clock. But that was planned for security purposes. No one was denied entry.
Were observers denied entry?
Not to my knowledge. I'm not aware of anybody who was denied entry into the building. There were some people who chose to stay outside, but staff, and I think at different times, staff in the law department was working, and people working Central Count rotated. They opened the doors as people asked.
so that was planned?
Yes. It was part of the security plan for City Hall, that staff and police officers were there, especially because the back entrance from the parking lot is also the entrance where chief inspectors and other people coming from the polls brought, whether it's the flash drive that they bring or whatever.
All the election.
All the election materials came in, and there's election techs plus other staff and the police department there to direct traffic, have people come in from the parking lot entrance. That's the same entrance where everyone comes in. So people were coming in, and Central Count was open until about, you were there, 11:30?
It was
or so?
10:30 and 9 when we finished.
Yeah, and there was people leaving the building at that time.
So you said people were allowed to observe on first floor after the doors are locked? Because that's different from what I was made aware.
I'm not sure, you asked me if people were allowed to come in and out or locked out.
I said observe, sorry.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Now, I don't know about observe, if people were permitted to stand and observe.
The only
On the first floor?
observation was at Central Count. And so that was open until Central Count was finished.
So is there a I mean, when you are
Although I
dropping...
have to say, are we getting far afield from the communication?
Somewhat.
So is the issue about observers from the time that the doors were locked to when absentee ballots were no longer being taken at the clerk's office? Is that the question?
But you were still taking absentee ballots until 8 p.m.
No, I'm just asking if that's the observer period that we're asking about.
Yes, but I thought at City Hall on the first floor, absentee ballots could be turned in until 8 p.m. until the polls closed.
That is accurate.
But observers were not allowed to be present on first floor.
That is accurate.
And is there a different, so we are talking about absentee ballots?
I think what is at odds here is one person's definition of what is observable and your law department's definition of what is observable. So a mere returning of an absentee ballot, so we don't have in-person absentee on Monday or Tuesday before Election Day. That's over. And so there are, as I said, one interpretation is that absentee ballots being returned to the clerk's office by hand, not by mail, but a person walking them in, is something that is observable. Your law department has a different opinion that that is not an observable election activity.
Right, and that was actually going to be my next question. Dropping a ballot off, I understand you're stating that there's a difference, that's not casting a vote. But in a sense, if that ballot was never physically dropped off, that vote is not being cast. So I guess I'm having an issue understanding why that would be any different, hand delivering your absentee ballot that's not casting a vote. Because if that person never showed up that day to drop off their ballot, that vote technically is not being cast, correct? Because nothing's being turned in.
This issue has been discussed, I think, at a council meeting a time or two, and we can revisit it if you'd like to hear the opinion, but there's been an opinion that I think Attorney Angus has been responded to on this issue, that the law department has commented on before. And the opinion has been that that's not, the return of absentee ballots during that period is not an observable activity, and I don't believe that that has changed. But I could refer to the city attorney if you'd like to hear more about that at council.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Do we have to all the floor?
No,
So-
she's
No,
an alder.
Floor
She's
for the
an
alder?
alder. She can spout off anytime.
What was that?
Oh, I was just saying you don't have to open the floor for the.
Okay, do I just stand up there?
Yeah.
Okay, so from my understanding is that that was observable before and then it changed. I have people, that I know that were observers, my sister being one of them, and they were allowed on first floor and then this, I guess, 1 or 2 times now?
Just think it's 2 times.
I thought it was 1, but 1 or 2 times it's changed. So I guess that's part of the question is why did it change? Why was it observable and now it's not observable? And what happens is then it becomes questionable. People wonder why are we not be able to observe when we were before? So that's my question is why was it before and now it's changed? Because that's what's causing some concerns that people have come to me about.
I'm not sure when it was changed, the last 3 elections, as far as I'm concerned, in 2023, there was an observation during that time. Do you recall a time previously? So I'm not sure what the change, when it previously was permitted. But I can ask the city attorney who has more historical knowledge than I do. I'm only aware from 2020, the 3 elections in 2022.
But the question is why did it change, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it previously was permitted during that time, that's what I'm saying. In the time that I'm aware of, in 2022, it wasn't permitted during that time. And that's a matter of someone standing inside the clerk's office. I understand the difference with and again, I know we're talking about observers, which wasn't really the communication, it was about IPAB, which this time is not, IPAB is ended during the time we're talking about, so it's a separate matter. But I think the difference really was the city hall being locked versus people being able to just sit or walk through the first floor. So during a normal business day, people can walk through the first floor and see people returning ballots if you want, but during election day, when the doors were locked, people were escorted to and from, or in and out of the building for the purposes of going to central count or whatever other purpose. So if someone wanted to walk, I guess they could still walk on the first floor, but they had to have a purpose for entering the building. So that would be the difference there. Maybe I can provide a response to you, Alden Grant, if you'd like to know the history of that. I just don't have all the memos in front of me about it.
Okay, yeah.
Any other questions?
I do see at the end of this, or it does show on the photo bottom right, the red dot says observers with 2 chairs. Is that changed from the previous election or is?
No. So the last election, there was in fact an action in court which caused 2 additional observers to be placed at the T intersection of the hallway, the 2 north doors, so that residents could observe ballots being witnessed and placed into a ballot box. All those activities are happening inside the clerk's office for the April and February elections.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll take a motion to.
Motion to receive and place it on file.
Second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn it.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? All right, we're now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Well, this is fun. Let's do it again sometime.
I was thinking February 27th.
Seems so far away.